Beyond 140 goes out on the road. Welcome to Santa Anita for this week's edition of Beyond 140. I'm Todd Schrupp. If you don't know the concept, let's refresh your memory a little bit. On Twitter, when you follow me at Todd TVG, of course I interact with you, but I only have 140 characters to respond to your tweets. That might be questions or comments. So in this format, I can take as much time as I like. Let's get right to your questions. A lot of them this week, all of them very good, all of them very diverse too. Let's start with John Cleary at Todd TVG. What new wagering option would you like to see implemented in order to pique the interest of the horse player? Okay, I'm going to sound like a company man when I bring up this first one, but it's true. Why don't we have exchange wagering yet? It's already on the books in a couple of states. This is something that I think would appeal to players who are not necessarily horse players, but understand financial investing. Exchange wagering is a logical place to start. But I also think there's an area that horse racing really needs to get together and think about how they can take advantage of it, and that is the emerging fantasy sports gambling market. You've seen with DraftKings how popular it is with all the other sports. Why can't horse racing get involved? Maybe it's something where you draft jockeys, or maybe you draft jockeys and trainers or horses for a particular day at racetracks across the country, and they come up with a point system. Horse racing already has an opportunity with exchange wagering. They've just got to make that happen, and now they should think ahead to the emerging fantasy sports market. I think those are two areas where we could definitely bring up new wagering options. Our second question comes from Danny Ward. What's your and TVG's opinion on the off-track wagering splits with the host tracks as recently mentioned in the Thoroughbred Daily News? Well, remember, all the comments that I make here on Beyond 140 are my own, so I'll leave TVG to answer for themselves. But here's what I think we need to recognize. One size does not fit all anymore. It used to be the racetrack provided the signal. There weren't as many outlets at the time, but then simulcast started to grow. So essentially, the percentages were pretty simple to figure out. If you're receiving the signal, this is what it was going to cost you. But now with the advent of advanced deposit wagering, we cannot just assume that all ADWs are the same. Even all off-track facilities are not the same, especially when you look at how business has shifted from the racetracks on site to these outlets across the country. It's kind of like the Girl Scouts. Yeah, the Girl Scout that sells the most cookies is probably going to get an iPod. The one who doesn't is probably going to get a magazine. You should almost tier it to those outlets that do the most business. They get a different percentage to those outlets who are not doing a lot of business. And you have to recognize that an advanced deposit wagering outlet like TVG that has invested $10 million into HD and its television coverage, that has invested into expanding its operation through many more millions more, is not the same as someone who starts up a business and then rents out some office space and calls themselves an advanced deposit wagering outlet. The industry cannot have a one-size-fits-all percentage, considering how business has shifted from the racetracks and how those outlets are very different on the landscape. So that is a very deep question and an answer that really you could spend probably a half-hour show on. Mark Ben Ruby comes back to the daily racing question. Do you think more owners and trainers will send their horses to Del Mar this summer with the dirt track? I do think that's going to happen. You're going to see different stables at Del Mar that maybe you hadn't seen in the past. Could we see a Todd Pletcher sighting? He has enough horses, and maybe with the dirt track, we will see Todd Pletcher over the summer. I hope that's the case. But you also have to think long-term with Del Mar. People want to see how this is going to play out for the Breeders' Cup. So some of those larger stables are going to send out some testing horses, some horses who can compete in different spots with an eye towards the Breeders' Cup in a couple of years. So I do think the dirt will bring out more owners, trainers, and certainly different stables maybe that we haven't seen in the past. Ken Jersey sends in this question. Big fan, but I have a question. When trying to pick a winner, why do odds matter? You're trying to pick the winner, correct? I had someone come up to me early on in my handicapping career and say that, why are you always talking about value and odds? Isn't the only goal when you sit down and look at a race is who's going to win? So shouldn't you just point to the most logical horse? That would be true if we picked winners 100% of the time. The price would never matter. But the fact is, it's one of the toughest games in the world, and you don't pick winners all of the time. In fact, you probably don't pick winners a majority of the time. So you need to take advantage of those opportunities when your handicapping is hot, and you need to get fair value. Odds always matter. Odds more than picking winners. Think about it. The person who picks a 20-to-1 shot versus the person who maybe connects with 4 even money shots, that 20-to-1 shot is going to go a lot further and sustain you a lot longer. So yes, odds always matter. It's not just about picking winners unless we picked winners all the time, and clearly I do not. All right, Robbie Osborne sends this in. I'm visiting Cali just to visit Los Al and Santa Anita. I believe I'll be there closing weekend. You better figure that out, Robbie. Anywhere I need to eat out? Well, you're talking about Southern California. There's all kinds of places to eat out. So let me put it this way between the 2 racetracks that you're visiting. Santa Anita, very nearby in Pasadena, is one of the best steakhouses you'll ever eat at. Now, you're going to have to bring some money, but I encourage you to go to Arroyo Chop House. You will have one of the best steaks you've ever had. So that's what you're going to do after the races at Santa Anita, or maybe the night before when you're up in the area. Then when you're going to Los Alamitos, you don't have to go far. Just go to the Vessels Club upstairs. Make sure you make dining reservations there. There are people who are not even horse racing fans who go to the Vessels Club just to eat for a night out. It's that good. So those are my 2 recommendations. But you're in California. There's all kinds of options. Our next question comes in from Macho Uno 79. How many days hath September? Well, of course, you're referring to Mother Goose. And I went to Mother Goose, and I found this. 30 days have September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31, except for February all alone. It has 28 each year, but 29 each leap year. 30 days have September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31, except for February. Macho Uno 79, you can't trip me up with a question like that. That's how many days hath September. Tony Cawthorn, how can we get our home states to let us have a TVG account? Well, the wagering map has certainly expanded over the years, but it doesn't encompass the entire country, but it is getting better. And the only way it happens is with you and a grassroots effort, you and your fellow horse players letting your local senator know, or congressperson, yes, we want wagering in our state. And there are some big states out there that need to allow account wagering. The first one that comes to mind is Texas. We get emails all the time from good people who watch us in Texas but can't have a wagering account. Only you, the people, remember, they work for you, the politicians. Only you can help make that change. Obviously, TVG works on it in addition to that with our lobbying efforts across the country. Our next question is from Shane John Beauchamp, and maybe my favorite name of all the questions that we brought in. Shane John Beauchamp, love your name. Todd T. Schrupp. What will happen to live streaming on hrtv.com? Will I be able to see both channels online? With the acquisition that TVG made of HRTV, that included hrtv.com and that domain. So that streaming that you've been seeing there, you will continue to see. The streaming that you've seen at tvg.com, you'll continue to see. But kind of some insider baseball for you. As of today, it was day number 2 of a 30-day plan to bring these channels together and bring them to the TVG studios and merge a lot of these technologies and have them operating out of one central location. So that is going to be developing. But for now and in the foreseeable future, yeah, you can get that live video streaming at hrtv.com, and obviously we'll continue at tvg.com. Our final question on this week's Beyond 140 comes from Hagen Southworth. Do you remember meeting me in the elevator at Keeneland and putting me on 58 flat with Matt Carruthers like 9 years ago? Hagen, some of the best people I've ever met, I've met in the elevator. So of course I remember you. Does anyone remember 58 flat though? Didn't they go on hiatus? When are they coming back? I hope soon. We'll be back with another edition of Beyond 140 in the near future. Remember, if you want to participate and submit your questions or comments, follow me on Twitter at ToddTVG.